at the surface of the ocean. The waves are the circumstances that happen to us, and the currents are the thoughts, emotions, and interpretations moving beneath them. And the false self is the identity I construct from those changing experiences. But the surface is not the whole ocean. The true self is not a calmer wave or a more peaceful current. It's the life rooted beneath them. And so in this video, we're going to look at the bottom two layers. The thermocline, which represents consent, and the depths, which represent union in our life hidden with Christ and God. In the ocean, the thermocline is a thin layer where the temperature changes rapidly. And near the surface, sunlight and wind and changing conditions continually affect the water. But as you go below the thermocline, the ocean is more stable, and storms at the surface have far less effect. And so crossing the thermocline changes what governs your experience. And so spiritually, consent is that kind of boundary. Consent doesn't mean your thoughts stop or your emotions become calm or you even understand what's happening. Consent is the quiet turning of your will towards God in the middle of what you can't control. So most of us live at the surface. Something happens and we react. But if the surface is always moving, peace there will always be temporary. And so consent changes our point of reference. My thoughts may still be loud. My emotions may still be unsettled. But beneath them is one quiet choice. I'm going to live from what is most true, not merely from what feels most urgent. Jesus shows us this in Gethsemane. Father, if you're willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done. For Jesus, consent was not the absence of agony. It was the direction of his will towards the Father within the agony. We often assume that if our thoughts are anxious or scattered, we must not be really surrendered to God. But that confuses experience with orientation. Experience is what is happening within me. Orientation is the direction in which I am turned. Consent is not the absence of other voices. It's the refusal to give them the final word. And then beneath that boundary are the depths. Paul writes in Colossians, "For you died and your life is now hidden with Christ in God." The true self is the self we received from God, hidden with Christ in God, and grounded in union. See, at the surface, one tries to manage life, but in the depths, life is received. Jesus said, "Remain in me as I also remain in you." A branch doesn't manufacture its own life. It receives life through union with the vine. That is the true self. It's not your personality at its healthiest or your Enneagram type with less anxiety. It's your life received from God. The depths don't mean you always feel God or that the waves disappear. Peace may eventually ripple upwards, but peace is not the proof. Your life is held in God whether you notice it or not. Both of my sons are driving now, and every time I get an alert that one of them has left the house, I feel a current of fear. Sometimes I open Life 360 and watch the map to make sure they arrive safely. And I pray and release them into God's hands, but the fear doesn't always lessen. But I still choose to trust. Nothing may have changed at the surface. What changes is where I am trying to live from. Living from the true self doesn't mean escaping the surface. It means returning to the waves without believing they are the final truth about you. Circumstances still change. Thoughts and emotions will move, but you become less reactive and more present and more available to love. And so I created a free true self, false self reflection quiz to help you notice whether you're living from fear or union. It's linked below. And if you want to go deeper, the False Self series explores how to loosen these patterns and live with greater freedom. Because the goal is not to master the waves or silence every current or remain hidden in the depths. It's to rest in the union where your life is already held, and from that place live courageously at the surface. Your life is not finally defined by what happens to you or by what you think and feel about it. Your life is hidden with Christ in God.